Good morning, everybody. You sounded great. You look great. Oh, it's the week of Thanksgiving. Oh, my second favorite holiday. We'll get to my favorite one in a few weeks. But I love Thanksgiving. I love everything about it. If you're joining us online, thank you for being there. We are so grateful that we get the honor of coming into your home, office, wherever you're listening and watching us today. And as much as we're thankful for you being there, you are going to love it when you experience it live and in person. There's nothing quite like being here. And I'm a satisfied customer. I'm telling you, there's nothing quite like being here. And so I'll be so glad when you can make it and join us too. For guests in the house, thanks again for being with us as well. We know you probably went through that. You were on the other side of the camera. And now you're here, so you can hopefully testify to that we are as warm and as friendly as we say we try to be, and we work hard at that because you matter. You matter to Jesus, and you matter very much to us, and we're very thankful for you. And I want to start the message, though, talking about not gratitude, but unlikely gratitude. Are you thankful? Are you grateful when you get stuck in traffic? Are you grateful when you catch the train? Twice. Looking at you, Costco, coming and going. Twice. Are you thankful when there's an accident in front of you and now you have no idea when you're even going to get there? Are you thankful for how much Thanksgiving is going to cost this year? You're thankful for rising food prices. Are you thankful for how much it's going to cost you to fill up your tank to go see family at Thanksgiving that you only see twice a year? Are you thankful for when you're sick? Are you thankful when your loved ones are sick? Are you thankful when there's tragedies in the world? Are you thankful that no matter what happens on election day, nothing ever changes? Are you thankful for all of that? Now, if we're really honest, and we should be, and we don't just give those stereotypical, Sunday school church answers, the answer is probably going to be, no, not really feeling thankful in those circumstances. And I'm not putting you on blast. I'm not necessarily thankful in those circumstances either. And yet the Bible tells us as Christians to be thankful in all circumstances. Ouch. Now, what's interesting is this gratitude thing has really caught on, not just with Christians, it's in the Bible for us, but it's caught on with modern spirituality, which is really based on like Eastern mysticism. And the idea that gratitude has physical and spiritual benefits. I mean, every religion in the world picks up on this idea because we know that. But the difference between biblical gratitude and, say, New Age gratitude is that in that system, you're really thankful to an impersonal universe, or you're kind of thankful to the God within. Well, that's not biblical gratitude. And ultimately, that's just going to leave you wanting. We're not talking about that. And yet, what do you do with those circumstances? Life. When life comes at you fast, and life comes at you hard, and yet we're told to be grateful in those circumstances. We're told to somehow find gratitude in the middle of all that. And believe me, I am not this pie-in-the-sky kind of guy. It's not my personality. That's not my makeup. I tend to be a realist. And a realist can sometimes look at a situation pretty bluntly. So what is this gratitude thing then? You see, because what happens is we get in these circumstances, and then we find ourselves beating ourselves up because we're not grateful. Anybody else do that? Or we find ourselves going, man, why am I still getting just as angry now as I used to when I'm stuck in traffic? Why am I still having this vein pop out on the side of my neck whenever someone cuts me off? And we forget that God is actually working the whole time in our lives. And that we forget sometimes that God has actually brought us a lot further than you may remember He has brought you. And maybe you forgot the person you used to be, but the person you are today is very different from the person you used to be. But we're so busy kicking ourselves for who we're not yet that we forget to see that God is doing something amazing in your life today. And that even in those challenging circumstances, He's doing something, dare I even say, amazing. But we're so busy kicking ourselves, we don't even see it. We're so busy wishing that we weren't so reactionary to everything that we forget to see all that God is doing, and that's our problem. We fail to see that God is working in a disciple of Jesus' life every day, every moment, every circumstance. So as we round the corner here, coming on to home plate with our very short message series, it's just been 3 parts long. Today is part 3 in this art of gratitude, because it is an art. It is not a science. It is an art form to cultivate this in our lives, this spiritual discipline. And we're talking about this everyday gratitude. You know, when Monday comes around, when life comes at you fast, everyday gratitude. And we're in Philippians chapter 1, verses 3 through 6 for this conversation to see what the Bible tells us. I highly encourage you to look this up in your own Bible, print or electronic. See this stuff for yourself. It is amazing. It will change your life. Words are also going to be up on the screen, but that's more convenience. I really want you to see this for yourself. If you don't have a print Bible or electronic with you, you can use our Pew Bible, and it's page 802. The numbers will always be up on the screen, too, to help you find it, but it's page 802 in here. And if you don't have a print Bible of your own and you would like one, Merry Early Christmas. That's a gift. Take it. We'll restock them before next week. Maybe if you want an electronic version, every now and again we give a plug to an app that you can get through the App Store. You can get it on Google Play, and it's called YouVersion, Y-O-U version. We have no affiliation with them. A church did create it, but it is an amazing app. A lot of people around you, if they're on their phone and they're not checking Facebook, that's probably what they're using is YouVersion, okay? It's a free app, doesn't cost you a penny, doesn't cost us a penny either. We get nothing out of the deal, but it's a great free app that you can put on your phone, and it's the Bible. They even have Bible plans and everything, including a great Bible plan about gratitude. I highly recommend you try that this week. It is incredible. But however you get into the Bible, just get into it so it gets into you. And let me set up Philippians just a little bit. Because a lot of these books in the Bible, especially in the New Testament, we kind of forget the situation. And that's okay. I'll help you out with that. That's my job. Now, the book of Philippians was written by a man named Paul. Paul was an apostle. At the time he's writing this, he's under house arrest. And he's under house arrest because he was preaching the gospel and he wouldn't stop it. So they arrested him again. Now, this was better than jail time. A Roman prison was nothing to smirk at. But he's still under house arrest, and it's still not a great situation. He's not in a happy situation, and yet he writes the book of Philippians, and he talks about joy. Like every other sentence is about joy, and not quite every other sentence, but you get the idea. Maybe you have the paragraph. It's just joyful and thanksgiving and joy, and it's like, what? In his situation, it was not a good thing. Because there was something else going on, of course, in Paul's life. There was something deeper than his circumstance. And that's what we get to see as we peer into this book as he's writing this letter. Philippians chapter 1, verses 3 through 6, Paul the apostle writes this, I thank my God every time I remember you. In all my prayers for all of you, I always pray with joy because of your partnership in the gospel from the first day until now. Being confident of this, that he who began a good work in you will carry it on to completion until the day of Christ Jesus. So everyday gratitude starts or is thankful to the Lord for brothers and sisters in the faith of Jesus. And that's where he begins. He says, when I think of you, I'm grateful. I'm thankful. Now he's writing this from his house arrest, a very nice way to say prison. And he's writing this to these house churches in the Roman city of Philippi. Now, we don't know a whole lot about these house churches. We just know that this is how the early church formed. And they met in homes, kind of like small groups today. And there might have been 10, there could have been as many as 35, maybe even as many as 50 in a larger house church if the benefactor happened to be wealthy and have a very large home. But they were scattered across this city. We have no way of knowing how many there were. But this much we do know. Paul knew who they were, and they knew who Paul was. And so as he's writing to them, he's not writing to strangers. He's writing to people that he considered to be a part of his spiritual family, brothers and sisters in faith. And these people had supported him not only financially, they had supported him spiritually. They had supported him emotionally. They had supported him in every way they could. They were family to him. And so even in the midst of his suffering, he's saying, I am so grateful for you. Now that's everyday gratitude. Because he's grateful for his brothers and sisters in the faith of Jesus. Because he wasn't alone in this. They were family. He wasn't by himself. Even though physically he was, he really wasn't spiritually. he had his family as well. And everyday gratitude is thankful to the Lord for brothers and sisters in the faith of Jesus. And also, everyday gratitude prays for blessings for those people. Blessings for those in our life. Look at verses 4 and 5 again. He says, in all my prayers for all of you, I always pray with joy because of your partnership in the gospel from the first day until now. Now, why is he praying for them? He's praying for them because of their partnership, their camaraderie. They were on mission. These Philippian Christians understood that the mission of the church was to fulfill Jesus' command to make disciples. And so they were doing that. They were partners with Paul as a missionary. They were partnered with Paul as an apostle. They were partners with Paul as a pastor. And he's praying for them. And he's praying God's blessings for them because they've been a blessing to him. And he says, not only in verse 3, he said, every time I think of you, I pray for you, I remember you, and I'm thankful for you. Now he's saying, I'm praying for you with great joy. Which actually, Paul is kind of making this almost double meaning here in the original language he's writing, which is Greek, meaning that he is praying with joy, but he's also praying for joy. He's praying joy for them. He's praying that the same joy they give him, God would give them in return. He's praying a blessing on them. I mean, think about it. Think about taking the people in your life and saying, I'm not just thankful for you, I pray God would bless you. Think about how different that is. Think about that approach. That was Paul's approach. That was his approach to everyday gratitude. He'd pray for blessings for those in his life. He prayed that God would do something amazing in their life, that God would continue to reward them for their faithfulness in the mission for which he was under arrest. Think about that, okay? He was not in a happy circumstance, and yet he's finding joy and he's finding gratitude, not in the situation, but in seeing the bigger picture of that situation and being grateful for the good things that are still in his life, like these Philippian Christians who got the bigger picture, who saw it with him and supported him and were there for him. Even though physically they couldn't be, they were still there with him in spirit. So as he writes this letter, he's praying God would bless them. Not only that, this is part of what Paul does too. Everyday gratitude gives life to others. Look at what he writes in verse 6. He's finishing his thought and he says, being confident of this, that he who began a good work in you will carry it on to completion until the day of Christ Jesus. Now consider for a moment this idea of giving life to someone. We talk about this a lot as a church. We talk about being a life-giving church. Now, what does that mean? I mean, as opposed to a death-giving church, but let me illustrate my point. You read what Paul wrote, which is a very life-giving way of saying it. He could have just as well said, hey, you Philippian Christians, you are not all that. You have a long way to go. You are not like Jesus on some days, but I'm confident that the God who saved you from your sin will keep working on you suckers, because, boy, you are not there yet. He could have said that. And in essence, that's saying the same thing he said. He's still saying, I believe that the one that started this work will finish this work. Why? Because it wasn't done yet. Clearly, that's why he wrote the sentence. But he didn't write it in a way to bash him over the head. He writes it to say, I have the faith to believe that the God who saved you and redeemed you will actually restore you to full fellowship with him. He's not giving a backhanded compliment. What he's praying for is their sanctification. Big, long theological word that just means to be made holy. Or as we say it around here, to take one more step towards Jesus. He's saying, I am praying that you will keep taking one more step towards Jesus as he works that in your life and brings that to fulfillment. What a great prayer. What a great blessing to give someone. You might say, Joel, why is that a blessing? Because you're basically saying, hey, you're not where you need to be yet. Keep working. Because, you see, God loves you and I just the way we are. But think about how he finds us. He finds us broken. He finds us lost in sin. He finds us unredeemed, and he loves us that way, and he takes us and he redeems us, and he saves us, and he gives us a home in heaven. But wait, there's more. Because then he works on this process to restore us, to redeem us day by day, to make us more like him, because that's the path of blessing. So yes, he loves us just the way we are, but he also loves us too much to leave us that way. And so he's going to move us on to the day of completion. That's what Paul's praying for. He says, I know my Lord's going to do it, so I just pray that he does it and that you receive the joy and the blessing of being made more like him. Because when life comes at you, you need to be more like him. You need his perspective on things to kind of sit back and go, I'm still grateful to the Lord. But we don't get there on our own. We can't do that on our own. That's what Paul is saying, that we get there because of that ongoing process of being made holy, of looking more like Jesus today than we did yesterday, looking more like Jesus today than we did a year ago, 2 years ago, however long your story goes back with Jesus, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. If you're like me, it's 30, bad at math. Let's say 35 to be safe, because I'm really bad at math. But whatever it is, we should look more like Jesus today than when we started. And Paul is saying, I am praying that blessing for you because you've been such a blessing to me. I mean, that is giving life to someone. So on this last Sunday before Thanksgiving 2022, when we're going to fight traffic and we're going to fight cost, and maybe you've got a little stressful relationship with some family, and you might not feel as grateful on some moments, what Paul is telling us in Philippians chapter 1, verses 3 through 6, is that every day, or be grateful every day while the Lord works his way. Be grateful every day while the Lord works his way, because he is working. He is. We need to be grateful every day for that, the fact that he's working. Now, probably the modern author of spiritual disciplines for Christians is a man by the name of Richard Foster. Written a lot of books about spiritual disciplines, and he really camps out on gratitude. His attitude kind of is, if Christians can master gratitude, we're probably going to get most of the rest of them right. His son, Nathan Foster, wrote this beautiful open letter to his dad many years ago, and long story with him, how his son left the faith for a while, and then the Lord kept chasing after him and reached him and pulled him back, and when he came back, and he really started growing in the Lord, he wrote this beautiful open letter to his dad, and here's a portion of it where he says this about gratitude. He said, gratitude brought me to the ability to collapse into God's providence. And so, with a playful smile, I relinquished, oh, just do what you want with this situation, and I'll say thank you. Isn't that great? Just collapse into God's providence like a beanbag. Just fall into it and just say, whatever you do with it, you do it, and I'll just say thank you. I'm not going to have to understand it. I'm not going to have to reason with it. I'm just going to say thank you. I trust you. And I'm grateful that you're in control. Isn't that just a beautiful way to think about it? That's being grateful every day while the Lord works his way. Paul the Apostle also wrote this in Romans 8:28. And we know. Not we think. I love the strength of the word. It's not even just that we believe. He's like, we know by experience. We have lived this. We know that in all things. How many? Oh, how many? For those on my left, how many? Thank you. You're with me. Good. All things. Traffic. Increased cost. Uncertainty about the future. All things. Boy, that's good news. All things. God works. I love that. Just you park right there. It's a preacher thing to park on a word, but I'm telling you, God works. He's not asleep. He's not waiting. He's not twiddling his thumbs going, well, what am I going to do today? God works for the good of those who love him. And then Paul, just in case we miss it, he redefines it. It says, for those who have been called according to his purpose. That's you and me, beloved of the Lord. That's Christians. That's disciples of Jesus. God works in all things, so we can be grateful every day, if for no other reason, because we know that the Lord is working his way. He's not slipped off his throne. Do you understand that God rules from a seated position? He never has to pace the floor of heaven. He just rules. And that's what we get to rest in, like a beanbag. We just get to lay down in that and just say, okay, whatever you do, thank you. Because you got this thing figured out. And we can be grateful every day while the Lord works his way. Psalm 100, verses 4 and 5 sings, enter his gates with thanksgiving and his courts with praise. Give thanks to him and praise his name. For the Lord is good, and his love endures forever. His faithfulness continues through all generations. So be grateful every day while the Lord works his way. Gratitude is this spiritual discipline in our lives that allows us to not only rest in God's providence, but it also tempers our ambitions. It lets our souls rest in him. It lets our soul relax in the fact that he is God and we are not. It shows us all the good things in our lives, and it shows us the one who gave us all those good things. That's what we mean by be grateful every day while the Lord works his way. And we do this by expressing everyday gratitude. You know, when I first read this passage, I don't know, when I read it for this series, was probably somewhere in July. And I thought of you. Philippians 1, 3 through 6, I thought of you as a congregation. I'm so thankful for you. I'm so thankful that you are my brothers and sisters in faith, and that what we do, I'm not alone, and you're not alone. That what happens in our city when we do things for the city, we do things for outreach, or we do things to serve, we're in this together, and we're brothers and sisters in faith, and I am so thankful for you. And I'm thankful also that the Lord is continuing to work in your life, that he's continuing to build you more like him, that he's working that process of sanctification. I've seen that in your life. I remember some Sundays when some of you walked in here and you were so torn up. I remember your faces. Oh, it broke my heart. I remember you were so sad and you were just so beaten up. And then I saw the day you got it. And I saw not only the light come on, but I saw your eyes light up. And they weren't sullen and dark anymore. They were bright. I'm thankful for that. I'm thankful that our church has a reputation in our area of being a church of hope. That the Lord has done so much for us. And he's given us a testimony to our community and to our city and our city leaders and to other churches that says we're here to bless our city and to make more disciples for Jesus. What a great reputation. And I'm thankful for that. You know, one way that we do this, it is these outreach events that we do. Whether it's trunk or treat or breakfast with Santa, we don't do this for me. We don't do it for you. We do it for the people out there that they're looking for something and they trust churches kind of almost instinctually. And we've proven ourselves, you've proven ourselves, you know, and they come and they experience that. I'm so grateful for that. I'm so thankful for you for that. And I'm thankful for how you give life to others and how you give life to me. I love what I do. I feel like I'm flying all the time. Y'all are amazing. And I don't tell you that nearly enough. You give life to me. You give life to each other. You give life to other people. You know, for us as a church, you know, believe it or not, as wonderful as Thanksgiving is, by the time I see you next Sunday, poof, it's Christmas time. And there'll be trees. I love it so much. My favorite time of the year. Welcome. I've been waiting since January for you people to catch up. I mean, the lobby looks different. It's all colorful and lights. And on December 18th, we invite everybody to come out and stand in our front yard and watch our light show. It's great fun. But one thing you do so well with giving life to others is on Christmas Eve. We have built such a neat, dare I even say, tradition with Christmas Eve. And I'm looking out at some of you today, you're here because of Christmas Eve. Some Christmas Eve ago, you took an invite from a friend, they gave you a card or something, you came with them, and now here you are almost a year later sitting here. They gave you life, this church gave you life, and now you get to give it to other people. I'm so grateful for that. So on Christmas Eve, of course, we have this great service, and the very next day, Christmas Day is Sunday, we're working on a special video-driven service that we're going to have ready to where you can either watch it that morning with your family, you can come here and watch it at 10:30, and it's just a chance to give life to people. And you do that so well. I can hardly move around in this city. I can't hardly talk to other pastors without them telling me how great you are. Angels as my witness. And I'm like, man, I know. I'm there. I know. Are we a perfect church? No. And if you're a guest today and you think you found a perfect church, you have not. We're not. And it doesn't have a perfect lead pastor. Oh, heavens, no. But I'm going to tell you something. If you're a guest, I'm going to tell you something, though. We may not be who we're supposed to be yet, but boy, we are not who we were. And we're moving and we're growing and we're becoming more like Jesus. And that's what we want for you. That's why we say this stuff. And so I want you individually to think about that be thankful for this process of sanctification in your life. That maybe at the beginning of that story when I talked about getting stuck in traffic and you're mad and you're, are you as mad as you used to be? Probably not. Are you a little bit more patient than you used to be? Probably so. You know, I used to be a very negative person. Some of it's kind of my personality. Being a realist, sometimes we can just kind of go, there's a glass, it's got water in it, deal with it. And that can be kind of pessimistic. I understand this. I surround myself with very optimistic people as a result. But the downside is my personality type, I can be kind of negative. That means I can kind of complain about stuff. But you know what? I'm not as bad as I used to be. Yeah. My wife knows. Whoo, does she know? It's funny how the Holy Spirit's voice often sounds like my wife's. When she's like, baby, Why? Because the Lord's still working on me too. And I'm not where I'm supposed to be yet. But boy, praise the Lord, I am not where I was. And I want you to do that for yourself. The devil will tell you to kick yourself for everything you're not, but I see what you are. Better than that, the Lord sees what you are. He sees how far you've grown, and He's happy with that. You're where you're supposed to be today. Where you're supposed to be yet? No. But look at the snapshot of growth. I want to encourage you to write that down sometime today. Maybe you can do it this afternoon. Do it before you go to lunch. Do it before Thanksgiving meal. I don't care. I beg you, do this. Look at some area in your life where you've seen God grow you. I just said like with that whole negativity thing, that kind of complaining that God is still working and getting rid of me. But look at where you were, look at where you are, and be grateful. I promise you, you're going to see a difference. You just got to think about it. And you got to see, wow, I really have changed since then. We've had guys come around and hang around men's breakfast, go to men's groups, and they would talk about a common thing for guys, we express emotion a lot through anger. It's like men really do have more than one emotion, ladies. It just comes out as anger a lot. Behind that's the real emotion. That was totally a tidbit, not in my notes, but it was there. But these guys will come along and they'll say, man, I really struggled with anger. And inevitably they have the story of going, but today I'm better. Yeah, that's a snapshot of growth. That's saying, I'm not where I'm supposed to be yet. By faith, I believe Jesus will complete that work. But I am not where I was. That's the snapshot. That's everyday gratitude, realizing that the Lord is still working in your life. He's doing something in you. I see it. I want you to see it too in yourself. See what the Lord... I only have a glimpse. The Lord really sees it. And see that and thank Him for that. Also, today is the last Sunday we can go fill up that gratitude pumpkin. I know it's a big goal. It's a massive pumpkin. It's so huge, but we're getting it almost filled up. Keep writing on it. You have one more Sunday, because like I said, next Sunday, I don't know, there's like a Christmas tree going to be there or something. You better not write on that Christmas tree. We got folks that will take you to the woodshed, as we used to say back south, if you write on that Christmas tree. But you can write on the pumpkin, okay? Write on that, seriously. And if maybe you don't want to write anything, just go out and read some of these notes of gratitude. Everyday gratitude. Because what Paul is encouraging these Philippian Christians, and what he's encouraging us to do, is to see that the Lord will complete what He has started in your life. That if He saved you, He is also saving you not just from hell, He is also redeeming you every single day, and He is fitting you for heaven, as we used to say in Middle English. He is preparing you for heaven. He is making you more like Him. He is blessing you in that process. And Paul is saying, I am praying for that process, and I am thankful for that process. You've given me joy, and I pray that joy for you. So be thankful every day while the Lord works His way. Because that is everyday gratitude.